This is Angela Andrew. A lot of you recognize her from all the great work she does at Skylum. She's also my co-host for Coffee Break, and we have those scheduled Monday through Friday, twice a day.
Yep.
And one for the Insider program, it's interactive to what we call it the Insider Gang, to where you can ask questions in real time, but face to face. Not typing it out. And then the other one is on YouTube at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and we try to do questions and answers the best we can, but it's not as easy.
So, yeah, there's like what, a 15-second lag between what we're broadcasting and when we see people's chat pop up, and then by the time we get that answer back to them, we try to keep up with it as best as we can, but there is a little bit of a lag on that one. But whereas with the insiders, we're on Zoom in a meeting. So this is a webinar, but that's a meeting where we're all face to face. Everybody can talk. It's so much fun.
All right, Angela, so what do you have for us today?
All right. So earlier today, I really went in depth on textures and borders and things like that. I wanted to kind of carry on from that into adding a watermark to an image. So I'm going to use one of the images that I made this morning and then add my watermark to it. You might have already seen it posted on Insiders or on our Skylum Photography Facebook group. I went ahead and put it up there because I was really happy with how the edit turned out. So let me go ahead and share my screen and I'll show you what I've got. So up on the screen here, we have Glenlivet. And this is one of my very, very fluffy cats. And he is super, super photogenic. And I wanted to make a painterly portrait of him. Let me show you what I started with here. Mm-hmm. Here's the before image. And then here's the after. He was up on his perch. He was facing towards our sliding glass door. So there's some great catch lights in his eyes. And I just wanted to really mute out the background, make him stand out. So you can see down in the bottom right, his platform that he's on didn't extend all the way over. I used the clone tool to fill that in. And then I darkened it up so it really isn't obvious. I made a mask to keep the detail mostly on him and then added a couple of textures to the background. I finished it off to share it on social media by adding my logo in the bottom left corner. And let me go ahead and show you how I did that. I'm gonna go ahead and go over to Edit tab and into my local masking here. You'll see I've got a whole bunch of different stuff going on here. This first one, the basic, was where I used a gradient to darken the foreground here and then paint back in the detail on his paws. So if I go ahead and click that, we can turn that off and back on again. You can see just how much of a difference a gradient, just to darken up things that you don't want, that you want to de-emphasize, can make a huge difference. We then went in and added our first texture. So there's the first one. You can see just added a little bit of that canvas look to the background. And then our second one, and that darkened it up quite a bit. And then what did I do for the third one here? I don't think I actually added anything. I think I was playing around with it later. And this one was just a mistake in there. So I can actually just X that out, get rid of it. And then this final one is my logo. So I can turn that off and then back on. And now to show you how I did that, I'm going to go ahead and click off of texture, click that and get rid of it. And I'm going to go to add texture. And I have several different signatures and logos that I have saved in PNG format. I have them in either white with a transparent background or black with a transparent background. So I can pick and choose which shape, which signature, which logo I want to use on a given image. So I'm going to click on load texture. And I keep those over here in my pictures folder. And I bought them from a company called Photo Logo. So it's, unimaginatively in a folder called Photo Logo. So I have several different versions. I have their initials, a bunch of different stuff. For this one, I went ahead and chose let me go ahead and expand this out so I can read it, the white high-res PNG. So it's just a white signature with a transparent background. I'll click open on that, let that load up. And you'll see it comes in super, super large. We want to size that down. So I'll click place texture and you'll see that the bounding box is quite a bit outside of my image. For that, to make that easier to reposition, I'm going to go into the zoom, bring that down to 25%, and then just bring in the corners to a size that I want. I think probably right about there looks good. And then position it down in the lower corner, probably right about there. I'll hit return on my keyboard to go ahead and commit that placement, and then go back to the zoom and fit to screen and let that load up there for a second. There we go. That looks good. From there, I can adjust the opacity to make it stand out quite a bit more if I want. So there's the full white, or I can bring that opacity down to kind of make it blend more like a watermark, make it almost invisible so it's barely there. In this case, I want to make sure it's legible, but I don't want it to detract from my subject. So I'm going to probably keep it right about there. And that's how I add a signature watermark to my images.
Awesome.
Now, if I save this as a custom template, you can see I already created a template for Glenn, but if I wanted to save a new one that also included my watermark, I could go down here to the ellipses and click save. And now if I go over to templates and into my templates, I have my original Glenn Levitt template. And then I also have this one here that says edit. I can click on this and rename this and change this to watermarked. And there we go. Now I have two versions of my template, one with and one without the watermark. I can then add this similar style along with these textures to other images. So I can get that painterly look anytime. And in case you're wondering what really gave this a painterly look, I went to the edit tab. Let me go ahead and go to my tools. The tool that I used the most here was Mystical. And the only thing I did was I brushed out, I used the masking tool to brush out the effect from his eyes. So his eyes stayed really sharp, but it softened up the fur and all of the details around him and kind of gave it that painted portrait look, kind of classic portrait look. So again, there's the before and the after.
Now, here's what's really neat is since you saved it as a template, now if you gave me that, for example, you know, you gave it to me, you come over, you guys are here for a visit, and you're like, hey, Vanelli, let me borrow your computer real quick. I took a picture of Piper. My Piper is out cold. I wish I could zoom the camera over to see her. And you decided to do the same concept. If she ran this template on my computer, her signature and all the cool stuff that she did to it will be applied to that image. So that's what's really cool about these templates is it takes and packages textures, skies, LUTs, signatures, and it puts it all in that template for you. So when you run it, you're not going to get an error that says, oh, can't find signature.
Exactly.
Can't find LUTs, can't find the texture. It's all included.
Well, it is worth mentioning that when you go ahead and run a template that has built-in textures and things like that, if your image dimensions are not the same from the one that was where it was created to the one you apply it to, you might have to resize those textures and those logos to make them fit in the same way. And you might need to touch up where you were masking. So in this instance, because I did a lot of masking to make sure all of these textures on the sides weren't affecting my subject, you're going to have to make a little bit of modifications to your brushwork to make sure that fits the new subject. But all of those textures and everything are there, so you don't have to go hunting for them, which is really nice.
Great. Yeah. Now Robin did make a comment. She said that she did resize the watermark, and she wants to know if there's a way for us to keep it small. Now, one way would be to resave it smaller, right? To save it as a small one and maybe name that small whatever your pixels are. I don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe
now I do have, so when I loaded this one, I loaded my high-res version. So that's why it was so large, and it is a very big file. If I go over to my local masking and go to add, and let's add another one, another instance of it, go to load texture here. And I have over here, I've got a, here's the low-res version of it. And let's take a look at this. This is a 1200 by 800 pixels, whereas the high-res is 7500 by 5000. So I'm going to have to do a lot less resizing with this low res version than I would with that big one. Now, the catch is if you wanted to place it in some place that went a little bit bigger than those native 1200 pixels, let's say you have a camera with super high megapixels, you've got, 7,000 pixels that you're working with on a long edge, and you pop this 1200 pixel logo in there, and you're not able to position it without upscaling it the other direction. You want to make it a little bigger. then you're going to end up with some pixelization in that signature. So let me go ahead and click open on this, and you'll see it's still pretty big, but it's a little bit more pixelized. It's not as clean. So let's go ahead and click on place texture. I'm going to make that go a bit smaller there so I can see it. And I'm going to be just a little bit more limited in the size that I can apply this. So for signatures, it's not such a big deal to have them small. But if for other textures and things like that, you want to make sure you have ample pixels to be able to size them and place them where you want. So let's go ahead and hit that.
And just to note, notice how Angela grabbed the corners. By grabbing the corner, it proportionally scaled it. If you were to grab the sides, then it's going to distort it.
Yep. So because I made that quite a bit smaller, it's still clean, it still looks good, and it'll work in most situations. But if you wanted to put something large, you want to make sure you have enough pixels to cover the area that you're wanting to cover. So I typically go larger and resize it. It doesn't seem to take that much longer for me, but if you're in a hurry and you're doing a lot of these, having something smaller that fits the size of most of your images, you have less resizing to do, can save some time.
Awesome. And then Angela, explain how you could create a template like you did, but just of your logo.
Sure. Let's go ahead and let's go back over here to catalog. Let's find another image. And
while you do that, Mark, I'm going to find all those extra links for you. And I believe, let me check to see if it was in an email that was sent to me.
All right.
I'll find it for you.
So I'm going to go ahead and take my logo off of this. And actually, let's just go ahead and adjustments. Go ahead and revert this to the original. And let's say I want to create that template that has just the logo. So I have an image here with absolutely 0 edits to it. You can see there's nothing going on down here in the bottom right. There's nothing for that template to save at this moment. And if all you want to do is have a template that just has your logo or watermark in it, you want to make sure you don't have any other adjustments applied. So from there, I'll go to local masking, add texture, and then we'll go to load texture. And for this one, let's go ahead and pick, let's try that black one this time. And go ahead and click that on there. Give that a moment to load up. There we go. And then place texture. I'll again make this nice and small so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to size this to about where I want it. So let's say we want to have this logo be about there and maybe bottom left. And maybe bring that down a little bit closer to the edge. All right, so I'll hit return on my keyboard. All right, let that load. All right, and then go back to fit to screen. So now we have that 50% opacity logo. I'm going to go ahead and crank that up to 100% so I can see it. And that's black and in the lower left. So I'm going to go then to the ellipses and save. And then over to templates. And I've got this one now called drag and edit. We're going to grab that. We're going to rename it. And I'm going to call it, let's see here, watermark, black, bottom, left. So I can make several of these based on the different placements that I want them. And that way I can just go ahead and click that template to then apply that watermark in that placement. I can do this also for the white versions of my watermarks and have several of these should I choose to. So now we've added that. Now I can go back to my catalog and let's go ahead and grab another image. I'm going to go show. Let's go to my photos. Let's grab this one here. This one's so pretty. All right. And now I want to add that bottom left logo that we just did. Since I've already added edits to this image, I don't want to overwrite these edits that I've already applied. If I click on another template, it's going to take away all of those edits that I already did. So what I would want to do is export this. And I'm going to go ahead and for the sake of speed, I'm going to do this as a 1920 on the long edge. And to my desktop, that's fine. Go ahead and click save. Let that do its thing. All right, then I'm going to go to the plus button, add an image, go to my desktop, grab that image that I just exported, open it back up. Now I can add my watermark, black, bottom left. And there we go. And it just popped down there on the bottom. If I want to alter where that's located, I can always go into edit, into the texture here in the local mask, and click on place texture, move it around. I can even pull back on the opacity if I want, or even switch it out and use a different watermark if I want to. So does that answer the question?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. All right, are there any questions popping up in the chat?
No, and we answered, so far we answered all of the questions in the questions section. And then for the chat, other than, let's see, oh, here comes a new message.
All right.
Can you change the color of the logo to white?
So a couple of answers there. One, I would recommend having a white and a black version, or if you have a white logo, to have a thin line, a thin black edge to it, and or a drop shadow, so it works on both black and white. I like to have just a plain white and a plain black option, and you can typically do that by, if I go to, let's see here, what would be the best way to do this? Let me go here to the plus. I'm going to add image. And let's go ahead and pull up one of my logos.
Now, it's safe to say, by the way, these logos were not created in Luminar.
Correct.
Remember, Luminar, it's not a pixel-based graphics editing program like Photoshop. It's designed to enhance our images. Rich gave I want to say parabolic, but that's not what it is. It's using a text base to tell us what functions we have that we're going to apply to the actual image itself to create the look that we're having. So there it is.
There it is. So if you have a PNG file that has transparency, but this is
Doug that wrote that.
What?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Parametric is the word. Thank you. If that were Rich, I'm returning red in the face because he said he was gone.
All right. So if you have an image that's a black logo on a white background, or a black logo on a transparent background, and you want to switch it and invert it, what you can do is go to light and to your curves and bring your whites all the way down and your blacks all the way up. And that's how you invert it. Now, in doing this in Luminar AI, we cannot save it with a transparency. So I can't save this with a transparent background. What I would need to do then is, when I brought this image in as a texture, I'd have to use blend modes to make that white text pop out. So it's a little bit trickier. If you have a PNG with a transparency, it's much easier to work with. But in order to create those files, you'll need a program like Photoshop or Affinity. I think you can probably do it in GIMP, which is free. And I'm sure there's a handful of other PNG creators out there that can make that easily.
Now, keep in mind, you had yours done professional.
Correct.
And now, do you have that on the, you already have, so you do have this on a black and a white background, not PNG.
I just have the PNG files, the high resolution PNG files.
Could you do me a favor? Could you save this? Actually, I'll do it. Let me, because I have it logged up. Let me jump for one moment. Here we go. All right. So here's the beautiful Ashley. We haven't done any editing to this yet, unless, let me see. If I have it right here, if not, I'll just bite my lip and let it. You know how we get, Angela. If it's not perfect, you're like, ugh.
I know it's hard. Perfectionism is
3 seconds. 2. Okay, so dreamy. No, it wasn't dreamy. So I don't have it here. Let's see if that's it. I don't think it is, but that's not a big deal. Nope, that's definitely not it. So right click, adjustments. Actually, let me just do this easier. History. I'm going to back out of it. There we go. Or one more. There we go. All right. So this is unedited. I just wanted to show you this real quick. If we go to the local mask and we add a texture to it, and I'm going to load a texture, and now if the texture is like this, it's a white now, and I showed this before, where you just take a felt pen or a magic marker, and on white paper, write your name. Take your cell phone, beep, take a shot of it, and then do what Angela just showed you. Save it. Now you have your signature watermark. Or, fork out $80 to have somebody do the signature one that they did there. That's entirely
not expensive.
How much was it?
Like 40.
Okay, $40. So,
but I would say if you wanted to go through that particular company, watch for their sales around like Black Friday.
They just had a sale, by the way. So anyways, but bottom line, you can do it yourself just by writing on a piece of paper. We took a picture of it, and that's on one of the coffee breaks that we taught. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come in and grab, and I am sharing my screen, right, Angela?
Yes, you are.
I'm going to open up this one. Oh, nope, that was a ping. My mistake. I'm so sorry. As soon as it comes in, we'll get rid of it.
So we do have a question here. Deb is asking, can you sort your templates alphabetically? Deb, not at this time. I wish we could, and we do have that on our feature request list. So hopefully we see something like that in the future.
All right, so here I am. So now when we bring it in, watch this. Bip. This is going to take up the entire screen. I'm going to place the texture, and I'm going to move it around. And this is so funny because Darlene, who was just on, she made a comment about this, about how she had to scale her logo. And I wasn't sure what she was talking about until I did this. And I realized, oh yeah, my logo is way too big. I see what she means about having to take it off the screen to get to it.
It does help if you take it, take the zoom down to something smaller.
All right, so right there, that's good. And why mine is doing this, I don't know. But anyways, all right, so there it is. But the problem is, it looks ugly, with that white trim around it. So here is where you come to the advanced settings, and you'll change the layer blend mode. So if I change it to darken, and by the way, I should have used white, notice what just happened. It got rid of all of that white in the background. So I'm going to take this again, just so you can see where it is. I would never do this. All right, but only because I don't have the white version of it, so you can see where it's at. If I had the white version of this, then I'd bring it down here. All right, so that just gives you a real quick, I'm going to delete that quick. That just gave you a quick idea on how you would actually add this texture to it. I know, I'm sorry, Chris. Mike Tyson, he's not judging. So that's how you would add it if you had a background PNG. That's right, Angela, when you and I found out that they added PNG to the textures, I mean, we were doing backflips.
Oh yeah, that was so exciting. That was the best news. So it was this image right here. And you see this really nice frame around it. It makes it look like you're looking out of a frosted window. So I only did two things to this image. One was to add a template, and it's one of my favorites. It's called Quick Fix, and you'll find it in the scenery category. So right here, scenery, Quick Fix. I also have it marked as a favorite, so I can always easily find it here under my favorites. So that's the only thing I did editing wise, because this is, it's a great image, but it just added a little bit of extra contrast. And then I went over to edit and into my local masking and added this texture. And this is one of those free downloads that you hopefully grabbed earlier. If not, I'm sure we'll get those links posted again. Some really cool torn edges and paper textures that you can add. And let me turn that off and back on. And it's just really cool. It does have a little bit of texture that comes through in the middle, even though it's a PNG. And I did brush that out here at the top just because I wanted that more clear white area here at the top with the sky, but I left the texture and the rest of it. It just feels like we're peering through a frosted window.